Hello and welcome to Things I Want to Talk About, a poorly thought out name for a fun new series where I talk about games and whatever the hell else I feel like. Let's start things off right by talking about a game that I really like called Gravity Ghost. It's a charming little game made by Ivy Games. Gravity Ghost is a little game about being a ghost and floating around in space. The game is all about moving between 2 points, and there's a third point in the middle, which is the star, and you need to get to that. What makes it good, though, is that the player isn't in total control of their motions. While theoretically the player does have the ability to go anywhere, the gravity's just enough to alter the course and make that a little bit challenging, especially once multiple planets get involved and the planets start moving. And it's not particularly hard. I've played about 8 hours so far, and I've beaten it 1.5 times in that, so I beat it in about 5 hours or so. So it's not that long. Anyways, it's a good game, I like it a lot, and I just couldn't make this video without sneaking a recommendation in. So, the game is good, but that's not what I want to talk about. Well, it's not all I want to talk about, because I think Gravity Ghost is a really good open world game. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Gravity Ghost isn't an open world game, and you're right, because it's not. It's very linear. It's set up with an overworld, and you go into each level very specifically in order to complete it. But what it does is it does movement really, really well. The moving is engaging. I've played through it 1.5 times. Like I've said, I'm not bored of it. Sometimes it's just fun to fly around in the space and not even worry about finishing the level. It's just enjoyable. It's a very calming experience, I find, just to go out and play this game for a bit. And what gets me is that open world games should be about moving, because you've gone through all this effort, right, to make this big, huge, vast, incredibly detailed world. And yet most games don't have anything much more sophisticated than running through it in a vehicle of some kind. The vehicle isn't fun, it doesn't interact with the world around you. There's no gameplay in traveling around these worlds. And I find that very strange, and it turns me off of a lot of these games, because the thing I'm doing the most of is going through the world. But going through the world isn't particularly interesting. A lot of open world games build themselves as other things. There's no open world game. There's open world survival games, there's open world crafting games, there's open world RPGs, there's open world shooters. But the open world is always in service of something else. You don't play these games for the open world, they have other things in an open world, and that I find very frustrating, because a lot of games use the openness of the world to give narrative openness. And so there are multiple things you could be doing. You have many objectives. You have side quests. You could go across the world just because you wanted to, find a side quest there, and then do that. But you don't need that. You don't need to have an open world to have an openly narrative game. And I hate it when I see a game that's not the right fit for an open world game, and see this open world being pushed onto it. I don't like slapdash open world games, because you can't make a slapdash open world game. It takes a lot of time and a lot of effort to making this kind of a game, and if it doesn't serve the main point of the game, then I don't know what it's doing. I want open world games to be about the movement, about going around in them, because that is the open world game that I have the most fun in. The open world games that I consider the best are games like Shadow of Mordor, which uses the open world as a way to have you interact with almost a character of the army in itself, and all of the little cogs of the one thing. But the open world is fast to move around, and it's engaging because you get a speed bonus by jumping over things. And just that little touch is enough to make it so that running around isn't a chore, and you run around very quickly as well, and the open world is quite small. And that helps a lot. The other game that I can think of is Mad Max, and that game again, it was the same kind of a thing, where moving out through the world was part of the point, because it was driving around, it was finding people just out in the world in their cars and attacking them. That's the point of playing the Mad Max game. But I find a lot of games like The Witcher or Bethesda RPGs in general, because I'm not going to pick just one, what interests me is the story and the plot and all the places you can go to and the lore behind the area. And I find the open world gets in the way of that. And I don't like that experience, so yeah, I don't know. I don't have a point here, I'm just talking about random stuff. I don't like crappy open world games, stop making them. Next time I will talk about Darkest Dungeon. It'll be fun.